This is the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Your hosts are Seth Jacobson and Patrick Heiler.
Yeah, we've got these new fancy mic, I don't even know what they're called, sound isolators. I ordered them, I should know what they're called.
It's like a suspension thing for the mic, so that when we put stuff down on the table, there isn't like a rattle.
I'm hoping it just isolates the mic from desk noise and table noise a little bit. We'll see.
So that we're kind of late. I see Decatron is playing Diablo 3.
Nice.
I almost installed Lord of Destruction the other day, and I was like, don't do it, man.
No, I'm trying to get you into Minecraft.
Yeah, I'll play around with that. It seems fun. Seth got me to play for the first time, I think, last week.
I'm a big fan. I've been sort of playing on and off for a while now, a couple of years. Just the ability to create anything. And
We have a big chapter today.
yeah, I think I just want to jump right into this.
It's actually not, it's not crazy long.
No, but there's a lot going on.
Yeah,
Because
that crazy chapter.
Yeah, this crazy chapter. I mean, there's literally 4 distinct scenes in 4 POVs in this chapter, which is more than we got in all of Eye of the World.
Yeah, and we were talking about this a little last time. This is kind of in the beginning of the Great Hunt, is really where the series starts branching off, and there's more characters than like Rand and the Emmons Fielders, and we start seeing this like, was it 4 perspectives in this chapter?
Yeah.
Yeah, and this conversation between Moiraine and Suian is pretty important. There's a lot to talk about there.
It's just deep, and there's a lot of statements in here that go to a lot of what happens in the rest, both in the Eye of the World and even in the future books. And there's a lot of good foreshadowing.
Yeah.
And just a few other little things that are really, really pretty neat.
But I should say, we're talking about Chapter 5, The Shadow in Shienar, and our symbol is the sunburst.
Which is a reference to the White Cloaks.
Yeah.
The title, we hit a bunch of dark friends in this chapter.
At least 4. 5.
Jaichim Carridin, Liandrin, Fain, if you want to count him.
Yeah, I count him.
Who else?
Lanfear?
Yeah, dark friend is probably not. She would not like being called a dark friend. She would say she is chosen.
And then I don't remember, but at the end, who's Fain talking to?
Igntar.
That's what I thought. So that's one as well.
It's never made explicitly clear, but I do remember reading that Jordan confirmed in one of his statements that Igntar is the person who let Fain out.
Makes sense.
Because I think he was expecting Liandrin. It's that statement at the end where he says, "You're not who I expected."
Yeah, I see.
Well, we'll get there.
I'll break into this. I have like the first 3 paragraphs or something that seemed readable or a good way to start.
All right, just don't read them all at once.
Okay. I'll read the first one. Stilled. The word seemed to quiver in the air, almost visible. When it was done to a man who could channel the power, who must be stopped before madness drove him to the destruction of all around him, it was called gentling. But for Aes Sedai it was stilling. Stilled. No longer able to channel the flow of the one power. Able to sense Saidar, the female half of the true source, but no longer having the ability to touch it. Remembering what was gone forever. So seldom had it been done that every novice was required to learn the name of each Aes Sedai since the breaking of the world who had been stilled, and her crime, but none could think of it without a shudder. Women bore being stilled no better than men did being gentled.
And this is a direct continuation of the conversation that ended on a cliffhanger in the previous chapter. So
Right.
that whole stilled is actually a reference to, if you look back at the previous page, the sentence that ended the last paragraph. Moiraine, if anyone, even Leanne, discovers what we plan, we will both be stilled. And I can't say that it would be wrong to do it.
Moiraine had known the risk from the first, and she knew it was necessary. That did not mean it was pleasant to dwell on. Her eyes narrowed, and only the gleam in them showed her anger and her worry. Leanne would follow you to the slopes of Shale Ghul, Suian, and into the pit of doom. You cannot think she would betray you. No, But then, would she think it betrayal? Is it betrayal to betray a traitor? Do you never think of that? Never. What we do, Suan, is what must be done. We have both known it for nearly 20 years. The wheel weaves as the wheel wills, and you and I were chosen for this by the pattern. We are part of the prophecies, and the prophecies must be fulfilled. And I just thought that last part was important because Suan points out that even people that they think are would be loyal to the cause or loyal to them may not be loyal to their cause.
Yeah, that's a good point, because they're still not sure. At this point, Liane is very loyal to the tower and hasn't been included on these plans.
Yeah. And loyal to Suan Sanche.
It's interesting. She gets sort of caught up in things, and she never holds it against Suan.
Yeah, that's a good point. I never really thought of it that way. But they kind of stay together through the rest of the series.
Yeah, they work together because they're in a similar situation.
Yeah.
I don't know. Liane really seems to take the opportunity of being stilled to reinvent herself, and it seems like she leaves behind a lot of her old grudges and attitudes.
That's right.
Because she changes Ajaz. She goes from being a blue to a green. She sort of breaks out her old Damani seduction skills. And
yeah, that's what you made me think of. I totally forgot about that whole sequence. Of course, that's way later, but...
Well, and here's where we get some of the information about the fact that they've been working together for 20 years on this prophecy and planning all about the Dragon Reborn and what to do when he's reborn.
Since the day Rand was born.
And really since the prophecy was uttered.
Yeah.
Which, of course, I believe was on the same day he was born.
I always assumed it was the moment.
Right.
But I don't know if that's actually true. I think it is.
I do think it is.
Or maybe, right after. Now I want to look at the foretelling.
Yeah, that was a foretelling.
Yeah.
Which, what's the difference between a foretelling and a prophecy? Prophecy sort of structured foretelling, maybe more a result of the turning of the wheel rather than the predictive force of the one power.
I don't know if there's a difference. Here it is. He is born again. I feel him. The dragon takes his first breath on the slopes of Dragon Mount. He is coming. He is coming. Light help us. Light help the world. He lies in the snow and cries like thunder.
That does seem to be that he is born.
Yeah.
And that sort of creates an inherent tension that they talk about here. They are taught that the prophecy has to be fulfilled, that if the world is to survive, the world must have the Dragon Reborn. But at the same time, they've been taught that a man who can channel is dangerous and must be stopped.
Right.
And so they have this just terrible contradiction where they sort of have to make an exception for the Dragon Reborn, but they're not happy about it.
Right. You don't want to gentle the Dragon Reborn.
But if you don't, he's still a man who can channel, and he's still going to go mad, and he still may destroy things.
And they believe it's inevitable.
Right. Yeah, no one even considers the cleansing of the source as something that could be done.
Right.
Because if the Aes Sedai of the ancient world couldn't figure it out, how are they going to even attempt it?
Next thing I have is, I think it's Suan naming the Amerlins who had been stripped of their seat and stilled. Tetsuan, who we talked about in I think episode 2, who betrayed Manetheren for jealousy of Elisan's powers, and Bonwyn, who tried to use Artur Hawkwing for a puppet to control the world, and so nearly destroyed Tarvalin.
Now, those aren't all the Aes Sedai who have been killed in all this.
Other Aes Sedai have been stilled. And there's the secret histories, too.
Right. There's definitely other Amerlin seats that have been...
I think there's 2 more.
Taken down.
Or something like that. The Amerlin continued her study of the garden, both of the red. She's referring to the Amerlins who had been stilled, and both replaced by Amerlin from the blue. The reason there has not been an Amerlin chosen from the red since Bonwyn, and the reason the red Aja will take any pretext to pull down an Amerlin from the blue, all wrapped neatly together. She's just kind of outlining the crazy amount of tension that she's dealing with, the political problems in the White Tower right now.
I think it's funny that the two Ajas are red versus blue, because in American politics, conservatives versus Republicans.
Red team, blue team.
Absolutely. And this is a very, very, political fight that's going on between these two factions. There are 7 factions, not 2. But Suan's not doing well. She's got the green against her, the whites against her. Basically only has the blue on her side. The browns are clueless.
She's like, if we get caught, she says, Tetsuan and Banwen were kept in the White Tower as servants, scullery maids.
No one can rally around a woman who must scrub floors and pots all day. Pity her, yes, but not rally to her. Which I think is a fun little bit of foreshadowing there.
About Egwene?
About Egwene, absolutely.
I didn't notice that until you just pointed that out right now. But yeah, that's a good point.
That she's totally saying no Amarylline seat can rally people to her while she's a serving maid, and that's exactly what they do to Egwene, and she rallies everyone to her. Yeah,
good point. Good catch.
I think that's deliberate foreshadowing there.
You think so?
I really do. I think this early, Jordan had an idea that he'd have Egwene
would become Amarylline.
And do so through the servant of all. That's one of the names of the Amarylline seat. So making her like a scullery maid really makes her the servant. Yeah.
When Moiraine has a thought when she sees Egwene, as she's going to meet Suan, she says that girl will end up the Amarylline seat if she shows as much. And she sees that Egwene is hiding Rand in the women's quarters.
If she shows that much initiative, I think she says.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the White Tower as she is right now, she'll end up Amarylline seat one day. Verbally shakes Swan a bit.
Well, she's wallowing.
Yeah.
She's been alone. She hasn't had anyone to talk to. Probably the first time she's actually had a chance to unload on anybody. And Moraine's like, get yourself out of there.
Yeah. And Moiraine says, and all for fear of us switching for not getting the pots clean enough, which is an oversimplification, but Swan says, I remember which of us squealed the loudest when we were both being switched as novices, implying that Moiraine was soft.
She was a noble woman.
Yeah.
She hadn't had to work hard a day in her life. So I like that they go over the plan. She sort of says, this is the plan we had. We were going to locate him, bring him to Tarvalon, where we could hide him and keep him safe and guide him. But the plan was just basically like...
She's very emphatic. They're kind of both yelling back and forth a little bit right now. We had a plan. A plan, Moiraine.
And then Moiraine comes back. The pattern pays no heed to human plans, Suan. With all our scheming, we forgot we were dealing with Ta'Viren. Elida is wrong. Arthur Pendragon was never this strongly Ta'Viren.
I noticed that Moiraine doesn't bother to explain to Suan all the shit she's had to deal with just to get these kids to Shienar.
Well, she's hiding some of it.
On purpose?
Yeah. At the end of this chapter, she cuts off the conversation short because she doesn't want to admit everything that she's hiding from Suan.
What do you think it is specifically that she's avoiding? I mean, she avoids pretty much explaining anything, but...
I think she has some idea of the price she has to pay from Min, some of the things that are going to happen to her.
Yeah, I don't know that we ever see Moraine's viewings. I mean, I know she knows.
Yeah, I mean, she gets the exact viewing of what happens with Lanfear when she goes through the rings and in the Eye of Waste. But I'm wondering if... I'm just mostly speculating about what is the price... What is Moiraine hiding from Suan?
Yeah, what specifically is she worried about? I'm not sure exactly.
And I was trying to think if it was maybe something she learned from Min, because she tells her all about the boys. Maybe something about Suan being pulled down.
Could be.
But I don't see why Min would have seen anything about Suan. And she's not hiding anything about the boys. She tells them all about that. Does she hide anything about the Eye of the World or what happened there?
She does not mention the Eye of the World.
And there's just so much she doesn't talk about that I'm trying to think, like, what specifically is she hiding from Suan?
I found a viewing on Suan, but nothing on Moiraine. One is that she will be stilled. Min predicts that. Without knowing. She was lying on the floor naked. Aside from her Aside from her being in only her skin, there's something odd about the image. She has no idea what it means. And what's odd about the image is that her face looks different.
Right. But that's much later, the viewing.
Yeah.
So, because she hasn't seen Suian yet.
Right.
And sort of Suian still thinks she can control things, but Moiraine has sort of realized that they're not going to prevent the world from burning.
And, yeah, the line that you just read, Moiraine implies that one of the next things she says is, after saying, Elida is wrong, Archer Pendrag Tenrail was never this strongly to Varen. And she says shortly after that, the winds of destiny are blowing, Suian, and we must ride them where they take us. And she's saying, like, we don't have a choice. Like, we're not going to be able to just manipulate these events. Rand he's too strongly to Varen to have any control over. The world will change around him.
And I think she knows they can nudge him, but they cannot force him to go anywhere. Later, she says that's one of her reasons for leaving Rand alone a little bit. It's both because he's stubborn, but it's also because he's Ta'Veren, and the more Moiraine pushes on him, the more the pattern pushes back and sort of forces him to do what he has to do.
And then Suian pulls out the horn from the lockbox, and they start talking about that.
The flattened cube of gold, I always thought was an interesting way of describing the chest.
Is it a rectangle? I don't understand what they mean by flattened cube.
It's just a... Well, because a rectangle is two-dimensional, so it's like a three-dimensional rectangular solid. So I guess he just doesn't have the word for rectangular solid. So he used a flattened cube of gold. Because when I see flattened cube of gold, I think it's solid, but it's not. It's a hollow box.
Yeah.
I think like a flattened box of gold would make more sense to me.
I do make fun of it in my head when I see it. Suian says Agelmar doesn't want it anywhere near him, the horn.
The idea that anyone who blows it cannot think of glory, only salvation.
Right.
And I always thought that was a way to ensure that no one's going to use it to like conquer another nation just to save themselves. Because when do we see it used? Really, twice. When Matt is saving himself from being caught between the White Cloaks and the Shan-Chan.
Mm-hmm.
And when Oliver is using it to save himself from the Trollocs.
Salvation, the Emerald laughed bitterly. From the look in Agelmar's eyes, he didn't know whether he was giving away salvation or rejecting the condemnation of his own soul. He only knew he had to be rid of it before it burned him up. And she says he has tried to keep it a secret, but he says there are rumors in the keep already.
I often wonder if the reason it makes her skin crawl is because it's been in with a dagger.
I mean, it could be, but it's a bit of a stretch. There's not much to go on there.
Yeah.
I feel like the Horn of the Leers couldn't be tainted.
Probably not. I just assume it's the fact that it's this ancient object of immense power.
Yeah. Which
we never really get an idea of where the horn comes from. It seems to be older than the Age of Legends. We know it's older than the Age of Legends.
Mm-hmm.
It appears to just be something that has always existed.
I figure it would be like sitting with the football, the box with the nuclear codes in it. Just seeing it, like being in the same room as it.
Oh, sure.
It's just sort of terrifying by itself.
Do you think any characters besides Noel get bound to the horn?
I don't have any theories. Do you?
I think Egwene becomes a hero of the horn.
Why do you think so?
I just think...
she could be.
That her death was heroic enough. I don't have any evidence for that.
Gotcha. That would have been a nice touch, though. Or that she is a hero.
There can be folks added to the horn. I think one time they're talking to Huron at the end of the book, and Arthur Hawkwing turns to him and says, you were very brave. Sometimes the pattern adds to our number. And then right after that, Bridget says, not just men, women too. That immediately made me think, who? Female? Egwene.
Yeah.
I mean, she sacrificed herself to save the pattern.
And she does heal the pattern.
Right.
Kind of a big deal.
Kind of a big deal, yeah. She saves the world as much as Rand does.
She starts putting it back together as it's being destroyed. And isn't it that in the War of Power, at the end of the Age of Legends, they both the light and the dark stopped using balefire because the pattern was falling apart.
Oh, I can't wait till we get to Bale Screams. Because Bale Screams reflect backwards in time.
Wait, what's Bale Scream?
So do you remember there's a couple of scenes where the world goes 2D for a second?
I think I know what you're talking about.
Like there's a wave of two-dimensionality that really like fucks them up. And they're always like, what the hell was that? And then they never talk about it again. And that's a Bale Scream, which is basically the pattern falling apart due to balefire being used in the future. And that reflects backwards in time through the pattern. So I'm really interested to connect the Bale Screams to the use of balefire that causes them.
That happens in...
Oh, way later.
Well, yeah, I was going to say it happens in Star Trek. I watched Discovery. I watched the 13 episodes.
Oh, what'd you think? I've only watched the first few.
I liked it a lot. And it is different, but it is Star Trek. I'm happy that there's new Star Trek. I'm happy that it's shiny and it's more colorful and pretty. And by colorful, I mean there's just like more to it. Whereas, you know, the old, like, the Next Generations and stuff were like, you know, like 8 people in like a shitty set with like a green screen space in the background, but they're like talking about philosophy and these interesting other concepts, and that, you know, they go on these adventures, I'm air quoting adventures, that like demonstrate a some other philosophical point, and that's like what Star Trek is mostly. And
that's what I feel like was missing from the episodes of Discovery.
Yeah, that there's way less of that.
Yeah. Not saying it's
a lot more action.
Right.
Yeah. And the effects, like the bridge is so awesome looking. Just that is almost worth it by itself.
It's amazing what good computer graphics have done.
Oh, yeah.
And a budget for building things.
It doesn't look like a set.
Right.
It's so good looking.
Downloaded it. I just need to sit down and watch it all.
Cool.
I've been doing other things.
Yeah.
Like playing Minecraft. But actually, it's nice because you can kind of play games and watch TV at the same time. Really, really waste my time.
Yeah. That's the way to do
double efficiency wasting of time.
A type of efficiency. I wanted to point out that Suian starts talking about Logain and Mazrim Taim and says, what if it was one of them? You know, we gentled them. Like, what if we're already fucked? Like, what if one of those was the dragon? Moiraine has a good reply. Not to mention that Suian says at some point, I saw the boy, and he glowed so brilliantly. Neither of them is the one, Suian. The pattern does not demand a dragon, but the one true dragon. Until he proclaims himself, the pattern will continue to throw up false dragons. But after that, there will be no others. If Logain or the other were the one, there would be no others.
And that actually is an important point, because later Moiraine hears about the prophet, Massimo.
Right.
And when she first hears about him, someone says there's another false dragon in the West. And Moiraine nearly keels over, because at that point Rand has proclaimed himself.
Oh.
And so she's like, there's another dragon? And so she like turns white. And that's because if there's another dragon, it means Rand is not the true Dragon Reborn.
Just a very powerful Ta'veren.
Exactly. And so she's totally just like, what? And then he's like, no. A prophet for the dragon. And she's like, oh, okay. But that's why she has such a strong reaction to that news, is because of this little tidbit of information.
Moiraine quotes, is this the Koreathon cycle? For he shall come like the breaking dawn, and shatter the world again with his coming, and make it anew. And then she says, you could never hide what you were... Oh, that shit. That's Suian. Yeah,
that was Suian the whole time.
Whoops. Well, Suian says, all that.
So, and then there's, more bad news. Although, here the Ireland's like, you could never hide what you were thinking from me as you do from everyone else. You have to tell me. You have more to tell me, nothing good. She breaks out the pottery shard and shows her the seal.
Uh-huh.
But I wonder if maybe, like I said, she's definitely hiding something. So I wonder if she's maybe covering up. She doesn't say that's what she was hiding. She just pulls it out and dumps it on the table. So I wonder if maybe she's covering up what she's actually hiding by showing her the seal, kind of admitting to something bad to hide something else bad.
Or Suian might discover her. You know, if she were to say, how could she say it without telling a lie? I've been hiding this.
To say no word that is not true. She just doesn't say a word.
Yeah. The Emerald touched the fractured seal, and her voice grew tight, as if she were forcing herself to speak. I saw the boy, you know, in the courtyard during the welcome. It is one of my talents, seeing Ta'veren, a rare talent these days, even more rare than Ta'veren, and certainly not of much use, because it's only a couple of them. I thought that was kind of funny, but also relevant. A tall boy, a fairly handsome young man, not much different from any young man you might see in any town. She paused to draw a breath. Moiraine, he blazed like the sun. I've seldom been afraid in my life, but the sight of him has made me afraid right down to my toes. I wanted to cower, to howl. I could barely speak. Agelmar thought I was angry with him, I said so little. That young man, he's the one we have sought these 20 years. And how convenient. It does make it seem, it made the whole thing seem a lot more predestined to me when I realized that Suian is the only person who would know that Rand was important without any evidence. She could just look at him. But she's luckily one of the people who was in on it. If it were any of the other sisters that had arrived, everyone would know now that Rand is a super important, at least a very powerful Ta'veren.
Well, certainly Lita uses her talent for foretelling to find out he's an important person, and that goes badly.
Yeah.
That leads to the downfall of Suian, then the splitting of the White Tower. Basically, him stumbling over the garden wall is what leads to the White Tower splitting.
When you put it that way. Yeah, no, you're totally right. I just never thought of it that in those simple terms.
I also thought here that the nice little tidbit that the Seven Seals, that's what the Armelin seat is. She's the Watcher of the Seven Seals.
Yeah.
Even though they've been totally lost since the Trolloc Wars.
Do they have any?
No. All 7 of them are gone.
So they have one broken one.
That's it. And we've seen the second one on the ship with Bail Domon. And
right.
That one's whole.
One of the intact ones is now somewhere in Ilion or something.
He's traded his fireworks up and down the coast. He's actually
out in the ocean.
He's like near Falma.
Moiraine lays out a plan here that she has that goes totally wrong very soon, where she says she's going to have Mat and Perrin carry the Horn of Valir to Ilion and have Rand be the one to present it so that Ilion will be united behind him and he'll begin with an army.
Which makes sense. He does need to begin
plan.
With an army.
Yeah.
He just begins with a better army.
A much better army.
The Aiel army. Here's a bit of her explanation about how she has been ignoring him. I have purposely let him think I no longer have any interest in him, that he may go where he pleases for all of me. It was necessary, Suian. Rand al'Thor was raised in the Two Rivers, where Manetherin's stubborn blood flows in every vein, and his own blood is like a rock besides clay compared to Manetherin's. He must be handled gently, or he will bolt in any direction but the one we want. And so that's sort of why she's been ignoring him this whole time. She's been keeping careful tabs on him, but only by indicating that she doesn't want anything from him can she actually get him to move in the direction she wants.
The direction she wants is, I guess, wherever the pattern puts him.
Well, she wants him to be the Dragon Reborn.
Yeah.
She wants him to declare himself and have support, and she has a plan for how he's going to take over the world. And she's going to do everything in her power to make sure that plan happens, even though he does not want to be the Dragon Reborn.
I'm nodding.
All the false dragons that have popped up, they all want the power. Rand does not. But before that can happen, they have to heal Mat of his link to the Shadow Logoth dagger.
Moiraine says, I had thought I must take him to Darvalon to cure it, but with so many sisters present, it might be done here, so long as there are a few you can trust not to see dark friends where there are none. You and I and 2 others will suffice, using my Angreal.
I mean, really, Moiraine and Suian are some of the most powerful channelers in the White Tower. With an Angreal and 2 others, that's a lot of power.
And Leanne's not weak herself.
No, she's not.
Suian says Leanne will do it, and I'll just find someone else.
And then someone else ends up being Baron.
Yeah, a dark friend.
Kind of. A purple friend.
A purple friend. A gray friend. The only dark friend double agent. Well, maybe that's not true, but...
The only one we know about.
When I was doing research for the episode on Masana, I saw that it's mentioned somewhere that she leads a effort to root out spies for the light, like hiding amongst the dark, was one of the things she's known for.
You mean back in Age of Legends?
Yeah.
Well, she should have paid more attention to Varen.
Yeah. Agents for the light that were spying on dark friends.
Yeah, Varen's kind of doing that on her own. She's sort of a independent agent. She's not really an agent for the light.
Yeah. And he wants to be free from Aes Sedai. Moiraine gave a small, mirthless smile.
Fat chance of that. I like how they're looking at each other like, yeah, right. I mean, there's no way the Dragon Reborn is going to be free of Aes Sedai. They are the most powerful. They're the source of power in the land. Of course he's going to have to deal with them.
Right. Nobody's really free of them ever.
No.
I thought it was interesting that Moiraine tells Suan that she had all the boys' clothes burned. She says there's been too much opportunity for some shred of what they were wearing to have fallen into the wrong hands. I assume this would be like some way of tracking them.
Well, like later we see trackers are put on like metal.
Yeah.
Or on clothes. Like we actually see Egwene do that later.
Oh, that's right. Does she do it on... Oh, she does it on a belt buckle.
On a belt buckle, yeah. Because the metal holds it longer.
Yeah.
It just wouldn't last as long, but it would also work on the clothing. So she gets rid of everything. Of course, that doesn't stop Lanfear.
I will cleanse them before they leave. They will not even realize it has been done. There will be no chance they can be tracked that way. And the only other threat of that kind is locked away here in the dungeon. In reference to Fain.
Mm-hmm.
You can track them anywhere. And I just have the last paragraph of that section.
I just wanted to say, right here is the sentence for Moiraine, where she says, "Besides, my dearest friend, I cannot tell you everything, and I cannot risk letting you know I am holding anything back."
Yeah, I just don't know what she's talking about specifically.
That it might be just that some of the Forsaken are loose. She hasn't told her that.
Yeah.
Don't really know why she would hide that, though. Maybe she sees Suan being fairly hopeless even without that piece of information.
I mean, she knows that some of the Forsaken are loose, and she didn't say it.
That's true. And that would be really important to tell.
Why would she not? Moiraine and Suan agree to meet tomorrow. And Moiraine says, "In the morning I will tell you everything that you need to know."
It's a need-to-know basis.
Yeah. She opens the door to leave. Liane gave Moiraine a sharp look when she came out into the anteroom, then darted into the Emerlin's chamber. Moiraine tried to put on a chastened face, as if she endured one of the Emerlin's infamous upbraidings. Most women, however strong-willed, returned from those big-eyed and weak-kneed, but the expression was foreign to her. She looked more angry than anything else, which served much the same purpose. She was only vaguely aware of the other women in the room. She thought some had gone, and others had come since she went in, but she barely looked at them. The hour was growing late, and there was much to be done before the morning came, much before she spoke to the Emerald seat again. Quickening her step, she moved deeper into the keep.
Well, do you want us to talk about the White Cloaks?
Yeah, let's do it.
So this is Bornhold, who's been ordered by Pedron Nile to
go to a random meeting point. He doesn't know where he's going. He has 2,000 men with him. I'll read this first part. The column would have made an impressive sight under the waxing moon, moving through the Tarabon night to the jangle of harness, had there been anyone to see it. A full 2,000 children of the light, well-mounted, in white tabards and cloaks, armor burnished, with their train of supply wagons and farriers, and grooms with strings of remounts. There were villages in this sparsely forested country, but they had left roads behind, and stayed clear of even the farmers' crofts. They were to meet someone at a fly-speck village near the northern border of Tarabon, at the edge of Almoth Plain.
Later, when Jaichim Carridin comes back, we sort of get Patron Nile's plan and what he wanted to do, which was, what he wanted to do basically was hold Almoth Plain and then squeeze Tarabon between Almoth Plain and Amadisia. And so he wanted rule over all three areas.
The southwest there.
And maybe even extend further than that. So he's pretty much sent Bornhold out there to take and hold the territory.
Gotcha.
Under the service of the questioners.
Yeah, I thought, why are the questioners in charge? There's probably no way to answer that. It just, I don't know, seemed weird. Carridin's allies, I guess.
I mean, clearly Jaichim Carridin being a darkfriend, the purpose is corrupt. But Pedron Nile's plan was to take and hold. Why he trusted in Jaichim Carridin to do that, I'm not really sure.
We see a long conversation here between Bornhold and the Lord Captain.
Pedro now. And this is all flashback. This is told in italics.
And it basically just kind of sums up what we're saying, that Bornhold's being sent without knowing what he's doing to the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, and he wants to stay in Andor because he's actually wants to take advantage of the chaos that we've seen in Andor with the red bands and the white bands, and he thinks he can overthrow Morghese. So he's kind of pissed that he's being pulled out of that situation and away from what he sees as a golden opportunity in Andor.
I had a little bit outlined here. That kind of shows that Bornhold is not a terrible person, which sort of makes him stand out.
He's the best of the White Cloaks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, he's got a blind spot for Valdo.
Yeah.
And he certainly has some of the prejudices of the White Cloaks in that there are dark friends everywhere. Anyone who doesn't agree with you is a dark friend. Like, that's still a problem that Bornhold has. But he goes out of his way to avoid killing innocents.
He doesn't seem to be like a crazed zealot like a lot of White Cloaks are.
He supports the White Cloak cause. He doesn't think the ends justify the means.
The scouts he had sent out came riding back, and behind them came more men in white cloaks, some carrying torches to ruin the night vision of everyone at the head of the column. With a muttered curse, Bornhold ordered a halt while he studied those who came to meet him. The cloaks bore the same golden sunburst on the breast as his, the same as every child of the light, and their leader even had golden knots of rank below it equivalent to Bornhold's. But behind their sunbursts were red shepherd's crooks. Questioners.
I liked the little imagery there of the White Cloaks being blinded to the dark by the light.
Interesting. I didn't even think about it that deeply.
Great visual analogy there.
Blinded by the light.
Exactly. What's going on with the White Cloaks? Of course, this wants me to break into a rendition of Blinded by the Light.
It's already in my head. Wrapped up like a deuce. Questioner says, "You could have made better time. I am Einar Sarin, second only to Jaichim Carridin." Is that the pronunciation we're going with? Jaichim
Carridin, yeah.
Okay.
And I looked him up, and he seems to be just a zealot White Cloak. No dark friend affiliation.
No big stories?
No. But he's second to the dark friend who's leading the questioners. And he's saying you could have made better time just by, killing people.
Yeah.
Because what slowed him down was avoiding the necessary to pacify an entire village, which is the questioners had no problem doing it.
And he just brusquely, Sarin just brusquely says, "There's a bridge at the village. Have your men move across. We will talk in the inn. It is surprisingly comfortable." "I was told by the Lord Captain Commander himself to avoid all eyes," Bornhold says. "The village has been pacified. Now move your men."
I want to talk a little bit about this next quote. "It would be like the questioners, cold enough to kill an entire village for secrecy, and stupid enough to throw the bodies into the river to float downstream and trumpet their deed from Alcruna to Tanchico." The reason I want to talk about that is because I think oftentimes the Dark Friends use incompetence and stupidity to cover up deliberate acts of sabotage. I think Wireman is a great example of that.
I see. It's a good theory.
The whole reason they would do something like kill a bunch of a village and then make it really obvious that they did it is just to stir up trouble and make people angry. And that I think is entirely at the direction of Jaichim Carridin, the Dark Friend.
That makes sense. "What I doubt is why I'm in Terabon with 2,000 men, questioner." Sarin's face tightened. "It is simple, Lord Captain. There are towns and villages across Almoth Plain with none in authority above a mayor or a town council. It is past time they were brought to the light. There will be many dark friends in such places." Bornhold's horse stamped. "Are you saying, Sarin, that I've brought an entire legion across most of Terabon in secrecy to root out a few dark friends in some grubby villages?" I liked that he's the only one that seems to be thinking, or appears to be thinking. It's like, this is ridiculous. There's no using the influence the dark one gives them to rot potatoes or what. These dark friends are always hunting out in the country.
Oh yeah, what are they doing?
Yeah,
blood rituals in the night of goats. No, we're just killing the goats to eat. Sorry, we're just hungry. Is this the first mention of the Shanchan? The strangers?
No.
No, okay. We had a couple earlier.
I'm trying to think of who was the first one to mention. It was when Moiraine is talking to one of the blues that Suian brings to Faldara. Oh, I think it's Liandrin that says, and something's happening.
Oh, it's in the prologue.
Oh, yeah, it is in the
Jaichim
prologue.
Carridin's already on Almouth Plain, and so he's already...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bornhold stopped breathing. Then the rumors are true. Arthur Hawkwing's armies have returned. Strangers, Saren said flatly. Strangers and probably darkfriends from wherever they came.
Again, it's just darkfriend is a word for anyone you don't like and doesn't agree with you.
Listen to themselves?
It's just crazy. I think that's the biggest flaw the White Cloaks have, is just being unable to see subtlety. Which is why Pedro Nile is a very effective leader, because he's the only one who is capable of seeing the subtlety of the White Cloaks.
And then I just have the last paragraph of that section. Bornhold closed his eyes to hasten the return of his night sight. We are being used like stones on a board. Buyer. He opened his eyes as his second appeared at his side, stiffening in his saddle before the Lord Captain. The gaunt-faced man had almost the questioner's light in his eyes, but he was a good soldier despite. There is a bridge ahead. Move the Legion across the river and make camp. I will join you as soon as I can. He gathered his reins and strode in the direction of the questioners had taken. Stones on a board. But who is moving us, and why? Great question.
Yeah.
Great question, buddy.
Keep asking yourself that. And then there's Bayar, that son of a bitch.
He's crazy.
I do not like Bayar.
He's not even a dark friend.
No.
He's just a psychopath.
I did read that he may be suffering from some compulsion later. I think we talked about that briefly.
Oh, yeah?
But like on his way back from Falma, it's possible that Moghedien got to him.
Oh, so later, after this.
After this, yeah.
Robert Jordan kind of had to make him hateable.
Yeah.
He did have Hopper skinned.
He is a son of a bitch. All right, so we move from that encounter to...
That walks us into the Liandrin section.
Yeah.
Afternoon shadows gave way to evening as Liandrin made her way through the women's apartments. Beyond the arrow slits, darkness grew and pressed on the light from the lamps in the corridor. That's kind of a running theme here, isn't it?
Well, the darkness, clearly this is
all happening at the same time.
All happening at the same time, and it's the Dark Friends, right? We are seeing... Man, we've seen a lot of the Dark Friends in the beginning of this book. All of the Boar's seen, all the Liandrin stuff, like a lot of Igntar. Darkness grows.
Twilight was a troubled time for Liandrin of late. That and dawn. At dawn, the day was born, just as twilight gave birth to night. But at dawn, night died, and at twilight, day. The Dark One's power was rooted in death. He gained power from death, and at those times she thought she could feel his power stirring. Something stirred in the half-dark, at least. Something she almost thought she could catch if she turned quickly enough. Something she was sure she could see if she looked hard enough. She's walking through the halls here to go turn Lady Amalisa into a tool.
Yeah, she's going to use compulsion lite on Lady Amalisa.
That's a good way to describe it.
That trick she learned as a young child to make people do what she wants. But she can't make them do anything they don't want to do. Unlike true compulsion, which can make you do anything.
It's baked, not fried. Her mind, I'm sorry about that.
Is what Varen does a shake and bake?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, what like some of the Forsaken do is just deep frying.
Deep frying. Oh yeah, totally. 100%. Deep fry your brain.
There's nothing left but
that's Grendal's way. Most of the time. But she is an excellent cook. She just prefers to deep fry. Tasty brains.
So Liandrin barges in on a group of ladies who are reading from a presumably funny book that, like, I don't totally understand, but it's like...
I think it's like...
is it a comedy?
What is it? The hawk? The dance of the hawk and the hummingbird? I think it's a bit of like the birds and the bees.
Which purported to set forth the proper conduct of men toward women and women toward men. Liandrin's mouth tightened.
I think it may be a little bit smutty, too.
Okay.
Like, I think it may be like dirty romance novel type.
That's kind of what I was getting. And they're like these ladies are passing it around and reading out loud from it and and laughing and drumming their heels.
Do you drum your heels when you laugh?
It would have to be like a really hard laugh.
Like I can picture it, like someone sitting in the chair and then like banging their heels on the ground.
That they're laughing so hard. Liandrin cut them off sharply, addressing the air. I will speak to the Lady Amalisa alone. All of you will leave. Now. There was a moment of shocked silence. Then the other women made their goodbyes to Amalisa.
You don't question an Aes Sedai.
No.
But you also don't necessarily want to be alone with an Aes Sedai, especially a Black Ajah Aes Sedai.
And Liandrin starts playing these mind games. I don't know if her...
It's the shake part of the shake and bake.
Is that what it is?
I think she wants to get her shaken up. You know, she wants to get her in an emotionally vulnerable state.
And then she uses her little mind push.
The bake part.
That makes them suggestible. But they have to be... It seems like they have to be in like an emotional state for it to really work.
I notice... and again, a lot of my information comes from what Varen does later in her inner monologue while she does it. And she has to have them in a trusting state of mind. It seems like Liandrin's only necessarily works when they're in a fearful state of mind.
Or at least it's off balance.
Right.
Amalisa gasped and gave a jerk, as if she had been pricked with a needle. And Liandrin's petulant mouth perked in a smile. This was her own special trick from childhood, the first learned of her abilities. It had been forbidden to her as soon as the Mistress of Novices discovered it, but to Liandrin, that only meant one more thing she needed to conceal from those who were jealous of her.
Man, I'm reading through all the BS that she tells Lady Amalisa.
She says it does all this weird, like, gaslighting, or I guess not gaslighting, but, like, she just plays mind games and, like...
Totally. Like, is saying she's gonna, like, accuse Algamar of being a dark friend.
Like,
and,
insinuates that might happen.
Right.
But, like, I can help you.
Says it outright. I can prevent you from getting beat up. Just give me $20, and I promise you won't get beat up.
Fires happen,
while
Colonel.
Cracking your knuckles, and like it's protection.
Yeah, it was not a perfect ability. Liandrin could not force anyone to do what she wanted, though she had tried. Oh, how she had tried! But she could open them wide to her arguments, make them want to believe her, want more than anything to be convinced of her rightness.
Yeah, and that's where that obey and I won't flog you in the city streets and the people won't tear you to pieces. I won't let that happen. Understand?
Yeah.
And it's like the only reason that would happen is if she made it happen. And then she does a little bit, she sort of insinuates here that Moiraine is a dark friend.
Kind of. Are you talking about Moiraine came to Faldara with a dark friend? Amalisa was too frightened to show surprise.
Just through this whole conversation, I think she comes back to she keeps associating, like, Moiraine came with a dark friend. The Black Ajah is real. Could be anybody. She just keeps suggesting that
yeah.
The logical conclusion to draw from that is that Moiraine is the dark friend that she's talking about.
Gotcha. Yeah, I kind of interpret it as her just like, now that Amalisa is in this half-baked state, she's just like, ooh, there's shadows in the corners, and they're everywhere.
Right.
And, she's just getting freaked out because she's suggestible to... Liandrin's also using something that's like really close to Amalisa's life.
True.
Where dark friends in the shadow are something that Shienarans are going to be thinking about all the time, Watch out. Essentially is, what she's...
it's very effective political tactic. You scare people and they stop thinking.
Yeah.
That's very, very effective even in modern day politics. If you keep people scared, you keep them stupid. And that's kind of what she's doing here with Amalisa, is just keeping her scared.
Yeah. And then she starts with what she really came for, I think. By 3 young men Moiraine was accompanied. This I know. Where are they? I have been to their rooms, and they are not to be found. I don't know, Liandrin, said I. They seem nice boys. Surely you don't think they are dark friends? Not dark friends. No. Worse. Far more dangerous than dark friends, my daughter. Which is true.
Yeah.
In a way.
To dark friends. But she doesn't say what they are. Do you think she just means... Do you think she's implying channelers? Do you think she implies... what do you think she's implying there? Just more dangerous in general?
Well, Liandrin knows that one of them is the dragon.
Yeah. I'm just wondering what she's trying to tell Amalisa. What is she implying to Amalisa?
I don't know.
Yeah.
The entire world is in danger from them. They must be found. You will command your servants to search the keep, and your ladies, and yourself, every crack and cranny. To this you will see personally, and to no one will you speak of it, save those I name. No one else may know. None. From Faldara in secrecy these young men must be removed, and to Tarvalin taken, in utter secrecy. As you command, Liandrin, said I, but I do not understand the need for secrecy. No one here will hinder I, said I. Of the Black Aja, have you heard? What's that? What is Liandrin, Tarabonner? She has the...
She's a Yoda.
Yeah.
she speaks in the
right.
backwards. She's
of the Black Aja, have you heard?
Yeah, but I think that's a Tarabonner method of speech, yeah.
Yeah, they all do it. I think about that scene with Julian where he says, like, get me a gallon of cooking oil, a pound of salt, and 2 rats. Like, what were you going to do with those? And he's like, I don't know.
I'm just going to let your mind fill in the blanks. You can always come up with worse shit than I can.
The Black Aja is real, child, real, and here within Faldara's walls.
We see all these women searching the rooms, and Liandrin, later, like, Egwene sees her, like, on her knees, like, scrubbing, like, searching a closet and getting all dusty, and she's like, why is she doing that? And the reason is she's been compelled.
Yeah, to look herself even.
Yeah, to do everything she can to find these boys.
Please, Liandrin, said I, please say you will protect my brother and my ladies. Who deserves protection, I will protect. Concern yourself with yourself, my daughter, and think only of what I have commanded of you. Only that. Pulling the door shut behind her, Liandrin suddenly felt a prickling across her skin. Breath-catching, she whirled about, looking up and down the dimly lit hall. Empty.
So, she just sensed a woman channeling, and nobody's there. And we've seen Rand also be haunted by a voice, and I thought that was Lanfear. And I think this is Lanfear too.
It was full night beyond the arrow slits. The hall was empty, yet she was sure there had been eyes on her.
I mean...
Me and Seth both think this is Lanfear.
Right.
Or Selene is already there. Lanfear as Selene.
She's just following Rand around, and, you know, we see her appear in the windows. Uno sees her a couple of times, and then she gets him alone in the portal stone and sends him through.
Yeah, I hadn't thought it was Lanfear until was it last chapter where Rand is walking across, and he feels the same exact thing happens to him.
It's that prickling sensation that feels very...
And who would be hiding?
Right.
If it were one of the Aes Sedai, they could just openly channel. It wouldn't matter.
Aradia saying that it could be Fain seeing him, but I just don't think that explains the prickling.
Nah.
Yeah, I think it's definitely Lanfear.
And then I figured I'd just read this last section, the Fain part.
Oh, it's super short. Yeah, go for it.
Pitch blackness covered the dungeons, whatever the hour, unless someone brought in a lantern. But Padden Fain sat on the edge of his cot, staring into the dark with a smile on his face. He could hear the other 2 prisoners grumbling in their sleep, muttering in nightmares. Padden Fain was waiting for something he had been awaiting for a long time, for too long, but not much longer. The door to the outer guardroom opened, spilling in a flood of light, darkly outlining a figure in the doorway. Fain stood. You! Not who I expected. He stretched with casualness he did not feel. Blood raced through his veins. He thought he could leap over the keep if he tried. Surprises for everyone, eh? Well, come on. The night's getting old, and I want some sleep sometime. As a lamp came into the cell chamber, Fain raised his head, grinning at something, unseen, yet felt, beyond the dungeon's stone ceiling. It isn't over yet, he whispered. The battle's never over.
We think it's Igntar who's shown up.
Yeah.
We think Fain was expecting one of the Black Aja.
Either Liandrin or Theron.
Mm-hmm. And here at the end, I think he looks up and he sees Rand and says, the battle's never over. He senses him.
Battle's never over, Althor.
Never over. Which Althor has nightmares about.
Mordeth knows.
So creepy. I'm going to use this sort of scene break to actually stop and thank a few patrons we've gotten.
Yeah, we've got a couple new ones.
Yeah, there was a bit of a little confusion with Patreon. They came out with that new pricing scheme, and then a bunch of people complained, and then they
We should address
reverted back to not having the scheme anymore. So if you canceled your pledge to a podcast or anybody really because of the pricing change, you might want to think about, reinstating it because they didn't go forward. But it was a bit of a...
It was dumb.
It was dumb, yeah.
For those of you who aren't aware, basically the way it works is like the money that's donated to us goes into a big pot, and we get it at the end of the month minus a certain percentage. I forgot exactly what
a processing
it's a small percentage.
Fee. Yeah.
And Patreon, last month, decided that they were going to reverse that, so that if you wanted to give us $1, it would cost you 30 cents to send it, or something like that, which is... made some people annoyed that now,
And it was communicated really poorly.
Yeah. The point is to donate $1, not $1.30.
Right. Right. And so I guess they ended up reverting that, but obviously they're still going to mess with probably the pricing models in the future.
Yeah.
So I expect it to change.
I guess lots of Patreon users in general complained a ton, and
yeah.
they stopped, or they changed it back to what it was. Is that right?
Well, they didn't implement the change.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. I wrote an email. They had a form for feedback.
Gotcha.
So, like I said, there was a bit of chaos. So, some people, we lost some people came back. And so if I've missed your name, please let me know. Because with all the comings and goings, I may not get everybody.
Yeah, totally send us an email. We try our best to get every single one out there.
But that would require keeping better records. So instead, I depend on you guys to let me know when I mess up. So this month, we actually got just a little bit of a splurge in the last 3 days. $5 pledged by Katie.
Merry Christmas to us. Thanks, Katie.
Melissa Taylor pledged at the Aes Sedai level. Thank you, Melissa.
Appreciate you.
And Ryan Pluckrose gave us a couple bucks.
Yeah.
Also seeing Wilhelm Eriksson. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Always appreciate it.
If you pledged before the 21st and I didn't say your name, let me know.
I'm nodding. Hopefully editing magic will fix that.
Always does.
Thank you for listening to the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Rate us in the Apple Podcast app or support us on Patreon. Is that good enough?